Welcome to Wukong. Last year's hit game? I think by the end of the year it was kind of not super up there, but I thought it was alright for someone's first try at an action game. Definitely had a lot of rough edges. Anyways, enough talking about other games. This is Warframe. This is Warframe's Wukong. Because there must always be Wukong. Often, there's more than one Wukong, as you can see there. So yeah, second video we're going to do as part of the pseudo-exalted reworks, or exalted reworks, was have a look at the Monkey Man. I've long despised the Monkey Man on account of him just being spammy and everywhere, but I found a new appreciation for him. So let's dive in. Starting with Wukong's passive. Basically when you kill him, he doesn't die 3 times a mission, which does not come up a lot, but it is a potential thing. And when he comes back to life, he will trigger one of these 5 techniques, which is either tripping his elemental damage for a minute, invisibility for 30 seconds, invulnerable for 30 seconds, extra loot drops for 60 seconds, or orbs are more effective for 60 seconds. Nothing you can really build around with. It's just kind of coming back. He cheats death. So you got a little protection against one-shots, essentially. Not the worst passive, but yeah, you can't specifically cannot really build around it. Most people try and avoid situations where they are dying. Never mind 3 times in a row. Now Wukong's first ability, aka the one that got nerfed that everyone complained about, he spawns this little clone of himself called the Celestial Twin. Down in the bottom right, you can see his health there. You'll notice he has more health than me. That's because his health is boosted by power strength. His damage is not, but he does also have a 3 times damage multiplier to help him out with the fact that he's kind of dumb. If you followed me on TikTok, you'll have seen the successive series of, is the clone going to attack something? Particularly with melee. He is not good with melee. Speaking of which, I'm holding a gun, so he's holding the melee right now. If we switch that around, he'll pull out a gun. Whatever the last gun you held was. So you can see he switched to my secondary there. If I go to my primary and switch back, he'll now be using my tank Laxian, which can generate orbs. That is ideally what I would like him to be doing, but a lot of the time for our Wukong build here, we will be using this, which he also, this is the case where he matches you when you're using the Iron Staff. He is kind of glitchy. So sometimes you'll just see him switch back to the guns or the regular melee, but he's actually using the Iron Staff. But yeah, he will just kind of run around doing his thing. He does use your ammo supply, so, but if you're using the Iron Staff, which we are here today, you won't be using the ammo supply, so if he does decide to use a gun, he should be all set. Second ability, you've probably heard this one if you've ever been in a mission with a Wukong. He does a flying thing. He is invisible while he's doing this. He will also, but he'll bump into enemies, which will alert them. So be careful with that if you are doing spy vaults. Also, when he initially goes in and out of the cloud, he creates a little sun thing, again alerting enemies. So beware of that. Big thing with this is it does make him invulnerable while he's doing it, and he regenerates health as he moves. Basically, this takes the spot, and he'll cleanse status. Basically, this takes the. Besides being a travel tool, this takes the effect of a rolling guard mod that many people would use on different frames. You can very quickly just immediately get out of combat, and you'll just be invulnerable and start healing and clear all your status off. So yeah, it's a big part of Wukong being able to kind of self-sustain as a tank. And one of the common things for his kit. The augment for it, there's an augment for his first ability too, but it's kind of crap, which is why I didn't talk about it. But the augment for this one, if you are going to play in teams a lot, will turn teammates around you invisible when you take off, but doesn't do anything actually for Wukong himself. Alright, let's move on to the next one. So Defy is this. You do this sweet little stance, you twirl, and hit the enemy's back. You might think that this is just a really kind of crappy damage ability. And if you're evaluating it as a really crappy damage ability, it is a really crappy damage ability. Basically, though, this is turning us invulnerable. You can see we're absorbing a bunch of damage. We do reflect the damage back with a multiplier. However, it... Oh, I see. It's down. But that's not really the part you want. The part you want is the damage you absorb. You can see in the bottom right, turns into a armor bonus, up to 1,500. Which we are getting pretty easily from these steel path enemies. Basically, Wukong himself does not have very good armor. It's not worth modding armor on him. He does have fairly high health and the ability to heal it, though. Defy will give you flat armor. When I say flat, it means it's not like 100%, which, again, like modding would not do anything for him. It actually gives him 1,500 armor, which is a fairly high effective resistance onto his health. It's something like 70 or 75, I believe, if I did the exact math. Just gives him a lot of tankiness. That invulnerable period also has the effect of making him invulnerable, so it's a quick kind of panic button. And it taunts enemies to attack him, so it will get them off of a defense console or something if you need them to not attack that. It is only going to be for a few seconds, though, so you are going to have to pretty quickly figure out a solution to that. It's not like a Loki or Titania situation where you can use that to indefinitely pause the enemy AI. Last, but certainly not least, is the Iron Staff. Wukong's big slam stick. Or if you want to get your inner Darth Maul on, essentially. There's a few things to note about the Iron Staff, which I will kind of cover a little bit more in detail. One is its combos. This is the neutral combo. It's not the greatest. It's got kind of a very direct. When you're moving, you do get big sweeping combos and spins. The other thing is when he turns the staff big like that, it's actually it's a vortex. It pulls enemies in. So he's actually got some gathering built in, which is part of what we're actually doing with the build. The other ones are that will go directly into the gathering. Or no, that one's just a big slam. This is what you do on like a necromech or something that's right in your face. And then this one, this looks cool, but it's basically completely impractical. The little drop kick. The other big highlight about the staff is it has 100% follow through. If you're not intimately familiar with Warframe's melee system, that may be absolutely meaningless to you, but follow through is basically when you hit one enemy and then you hit another with the same swing. As we did a lot there. The follow through amount on the stat page, I'll explain more there, is how much of the damage you do to the second enemy. Each time you hit another enemy, it will reduce the damage if your follow through is less than 100. Doesn't apply to this thing. Which you'll see when we get to the build. Speaking of, Wukong build. So there's a couple things here. One is growing power. Now, this is going to boost your Iron Staff and your clone, but you do have to make sure you deal a status effect with a weapon. They're not particularly integral to the build, but I will show off the weapons I've got equipped, because all three of them will basically immediately get a status effect. Once you got your status effect, you got 6 seconds to pop your clone and your Iron Staff out. You can also use the Iron Staff to deal the status effects, but then you'll have to cast it to put it away and cast it to take it back out again if you do want to benefit from that strength, because it snapshots at the point that it was cast. It does not dynamically go up. Cutting Drift, there's a little bit of range on here. That is mostly for the purpose of Defy. A lot of people think the Primal Fury scales with range. I think there was a bug at one point where it did. Or maybe that was the pre-reworked version, but that doesn't anymore. Hasn't been a thing for ages, or it was only a visual thing. It's a little strange. But yeah, this just gives us a tiny bit of extra range for Defy. just to give that little extra. It's also in the Excellence slot. Uh, you could put other things there. You can, of course, do the classic Prime Sure-Footed. That's going to take you another Forma, though. If you want to do that, you're going to need to throw the Umbral Forma in here. Umbral Intensify and Vitality. I have played around with doing Precision Intensify, but the problem is that reduces the healing on this, particularly. So I kind of got away from that. But it will technically make the staff do more damage, but it's at the cost of your tankiness. Umbral Vitality, that's another one. If you take this one out, you can potentially swap this for something different as well. Power Strength, no explanation needed, I should hope. Adaptation. So Wukong could eat some damage, turn invulnerable, and heal himself, but then he'll still get to keep his damage resistance after that. So that's all cool. Prime Flow, we actually need this for part of the build, but it's also a cozy ginch because he wants his energy, because you do not want to get caught in the point where you can't use any of your abilities. Archon Continuity is very important to this build. If you do not run this, you are going to have a drastically reduced effectiveness with this build. If you are trying to get Archon Continuity and you are a new player, for instance, you don't need it 100% because you're still a new player, but after you do the new War quest and the Veilbreaker quest, you will unlock the ability to acquire this mod. You can also buy it from people, but it's not RNG. It isn't RNG once you get the ability to unlock it. It's just a bit time consuming. Naira's Hatred, this is very much a flex slot. I threw this in here because Wukong has very good health. He doesn't have the armor, as I mentioned. His base armor is 290. That's pretty much below when you actually want a mod for armor. His Defy is going to be where most of his armor comes from. So just giving him more health gives him more options for adaptation and general wiggle room to get his abilities off. More duration also gives him a little bit longer on his low cloud thing to run through the levels. So that's a fairly utility mod there. You can put other stuff in there. That is 100% up to you. Blind Rage, for instance, you want to throw that in there. Knock yourself out. You want to throw the shield gating mod in there. Knock yourself out. Blind Rage is one I would be cautious of because, again, you don't want to get caught in the point where you can't cast his 2 panic button abilities. Primal Rage. This is the augment for the Iron Staff. Killing an enemy increases the critical chance by 15% and decays by 1% a second. Because we have power strength, that's actually 26%. That can be pushed higher, but there are reasons we don't want to do that on this build in particular. If you're going to do precision intensify, for instance, we'll crank that up, and then you'll start getting into a situation where parts of this build won't work properly. You may be able to make an equally viable build by just going all in on that, but for now it's just kind of functioning like a little mini blood rush. But we don't want to push it too far. Just a quick one. We've got the Tenant Galaxian. That's a Tenant Galaxian. This one should eventually show up in the Nightwave store, but it hasn't been cycled in yet. It was from a Nightwave. Galvanized ones are unlocked by arbitrations after you complete the star chart. Anytime you see a Prime Shred in here, or primed anything, if you don't have a Prime mod, totally cool to just use the regular one. Zaki Prime will come around with Neja's Prime Resurgence, or you would want to buy it, but essentially it's a fairly basic mod. I haven't actually updated it, so if you don't want, you'd want to do things like put Galvanized Diffusion in here, and probably Galvanized Shot. Pulmonars, these are infested Nunchucks. They came out with Deimos, but they don't actually come from Deimos. They have enhanced combo duration built into them, which is one of the reasons I have Blood Rush. I probably should have Weeping's Wounds on here. I'm not sure why I don't. Big thing about these is they had innate viral. Viral plus Toxin is a fairly interesting combo, especially when you run something like Shattering Impact on these very fast-hitting nunchucks that will chunk through enemy armor and take it away, so the Toxin has full effect. They're kind of a neat little thing. but not the focus here. Naramon, we're using a melee ability. That's basically a no-brainer. Other option would be Zenric, just to make sure you have energy all the time. Moving on to the Iron Staff. Primal Fury is its default stance, which you cannot change. So, a couple things here. One is melee duplicate. Remember I said we don't want too many crits? You'll see a lot of yellow crits in here because they're actually giving us double hits. We're attacking twice and hitting twice. So that's what's going on with that. You could do this with like melee influence, but it would be a completely different build. Probably not terribly more super effective at the end of the day. We got condition overload because we are dealing a lot of stats with this. We got 66 per innately. We are attacking a lot of enemies all the time. We are hitting them twice, so you're going to see a lot of those statuses going off. Galvanized Steel, this gives us a tiny bit of critical chance, but more importantly, it is stacking up critical damage because we're trying to get a large critical multiplier, but not super critical chance. Primed Reach and Spring-Loaded Blade give us more range. Big circle swings. We get 3 from that, and once this is stacked up, we get another 2, just by dealing status effects. Vicious Frost and Volcanic Edge gives us blast damage. So this particularly, when you do that little gathering vortex, will really go off, but essentially just makes all your hits AoE and will also multiply them if you get enough stacks. Elementalist boosts both the blast and the toxin that's on here. And there's the toxin on the end. It also gives us increased status chance as we get kills. Toxin on the end, of course. Now, you remember I said Archon Continuity. Showed that off. It's very crucial. Archon Continuity also means that when we proc a toxin off an ability, and an Exalted Weapon is an ability, we will get a free corrosive proc. So there's a 5th status in here that keeps getting applied that doesn't actually show up on this stat sheet. That will blend us nicely into Archon shards. So we got a couple purples for critical damage here. This should be Tau Forge, but the Stella farm is just boring at this point. Sue me. We've got some ability damage on enemies affected by corrosive status. This applies like a Bane mod to the weapon. So it does all the fun double dipping roar type stuff with the toxin procs and the blast procs as well. That's why that's in there. You could technically swap one of these to get the full armor strip too, but from corrosive stacks, but I don't find the enemies live long enough to build that up. Maybe if you were going for some extreme survival end. This is one increases max stacks corrosive, so we can get pretty close to a full armor strip with this. And then just kind of on the end, we've got our classic death cube here. It's been in several of my videos, so I'm not going to go too far into that. So that's the build. We'll go show it off a little bit here, but again, just if you do find this useful, consider liking and subscribing. Check out the playlist in the description for more. Of course, I'm trying to do them once a week when my medical conditions allow me to, for Warframes, and trying to get a weapon out once a week too. Send Forma, please. that would actually help out a lot. If you want to contribute a little, you can send some Forma to Zachary Cross. Or check out the Patreon and Twitch down in the link for other spots you can subscribe to me. But likes and comments appreciated, all that sort of fun stuff. That also helps with the channel. You don't have to send money or platinum. I'll do a quick little show off here. So we get a status effect there. We quickly go into our Iron Staff. That's not our Iron Staff, that's Pulmonars. Yeah, you can see the steel path just kind of dissolved. The Tennokai is going to do the orange crits, but like the heavy attacks, but that is... So we'll hop over to a steel path mission. If you want to check us out, check that out for a little kind of more actual in-mission style gameplay style guidance or proof essentially, feel free. If not, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll hop on over. All right.
The art of combat must be practiced.
Little classic Steel Path Fisher here.
Canvas of war.
In the void, the corrupted boys, just to mix some stuff up.
Search for traces of the target.
I was gonna say, where's my energy orbs?
You need them to open a relic, but are you confident you can withstand their
Pull
fury?
some Defy.
A fissure. Defend yourself and use reactant to open relics. Use that reactant.
So yeah, you can see we're just gonna mow through these guys, basically.
Want to open that relic. Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
Just saw us get a 6.2 million with a yellow crit.
Open the relic. Finish your mission and we'll take a look inside. Keep fighting. As long as the enemy is here,
Yeah.
this tower is useless to us.
There's that vortex thing. Nice little gathering. If you do a rush of guys with the cloud thing, you do get stealth attack bonus on them as well. Kind of handy when you're looking at Xmas units and tankier things like that. That to get some armor bonuses for free. Yeah, you can pretty easily tell that we're not gonna struggle here at all. I think the starting clip, which I think had the Lua and Murmur steel pass, unless I changed it in the editing. That also, you know, was on Steel Path. I believe that was the incursion, so. Always go up and check this room for some mods you can potentially sell for platinum and things like that, if you care.
Broken their ranks and they are on the run. Another successful mission. Find extraction.
And just like that, we're done with Steel Path Fisher. Thanks for watching. As a gentle reminder with like, subscribe. You know the drill. We'll see you in the next one. And have a good one.